Okay, hi there. My name is Jelaine Santiago, and I am talking to you today about creating content that resonates. So, how do you create content that is just so good and that is so true to your story and resonant with your customers that it actually attracts your customers to come to you rather than the other way around? So, I heard a few of the recordings from past sessions and I know that there are a few concerns about marketing, a lot of hesitancy around online marketing and especially around social media, which I totally understand. And so this session I designed to help smash through some of those mindset barriers that some of us might have around marketing and to also think about just like how do we solve your customer's problem and do it in a way that is true to your unique voice and your perspective. How do we get into the minds of your customers and get to know them so well? And then how do we create content that is just so resonant and so powerful that it actually makes your people come to you? So those are some of the things that we will be talking about during this session. And a little bit about me. So my name is Jelaine Santiago. I am based in Toronto, and I am a social entrepreneur. So I have been running my own or multiple e-commerce businesses for the last 5+ years. And the businesses that I run are deeply rooted in social impact. I really believe that business is one of the most powerful tools to create change in our communities and to also redistribute wealth and flip existing power dynamics. So I am really passionate about using business to just create positive impact. And so I am a content marketing consultant. I have grown and scaled multiple e-commerce businesses and over these last few years, and I love working with small business owners to help them grow their businesses online and also, create purpose-driven brands that serve our communities. So I am not a farmer, and I am probably not the typical speaker that you have seen in the Young Agrarians program, but I do have, a strong connection to the farming community. So I actually went to the University of Guelph. I initially thought I wanted to be a veterinarian, and I studied animal sciences and took a number of animal science courses and was part of the Ontario Agricultural College. Didn't end up using that undergraduate degree, but I did, it did give me a lot of appreciation in terms of the challenges of running a farming operation, of the issues around farming and some of the challenges, and also the importance of creating equitable food systems that are accessible. And of course, from a personal perspective, my father, I am an immigrant from the Philippines, and my father was actually a farmer in the Philippines, and I have still a number of relatives who are farmers as well. So I was really excited to be able to have this opportunity to speak to you all, and thank you for allowing me to be here. And so getting into it, super excited to talk about marketing. So a new way to look at marketing. Um, Again, I think people have this perception, and a lot of people who are starting up their businesses for the first time, and I don't know, maybe some of you came from a business background, maybe many of you may not have, but there is this perception that marketing is sleazy, that it's salesy, that it's icky, and it really doesn't have to be that way. When I created my first business 5 years ago, back in 2015, I didn't have a marketing background. And I really struggled to figure out how to get my message out there, how to tell people about my brand without feeling like really weird about it. And eventually, over time, I was able to fall in love with marketing because I was able to put it in a language that really resonated with me and with my community. And I see marketing itself is a form of storytelling, and it's a form of activism for your brand. Alex told me that a number of you are super passionate about social justice, that many of you are farmers and want to create your businesses because you believe in creating change in your communities. You believe in building more equitable and just food systems, about perhaps redefining our relationships with the land, about redefining our relationships with our bodies, about perhaps taking power away from commercial farming operations and redistributing some of that wealth to smaller and local communities and businesses. And so there's obviously a reason that you went into this and that you are taking this program and watching this video and wanting to create a business is because there is, there is a problem that you want to solve. All businesses, all good businesses anyway, exist in order to solve some kind of problem for our customers. Otherwise, why would they buy from you if you're not offering some kind of value? And so if you think about marketing itself, you're really not necessarily selling things, you're actually telling a story that makes your customers understand what you do and the value that you offer to them. And if you're not telling people about your business, if you are not spreading the word about your work, about the services and products you offer, then you are not actually solving anyone's problem. You're not helping people. And that in its own is like a disservice to the reason that you went into your business in the first place and the impact that you want to see in your community. So that is something that, I am kind of challenging you to think about today is, what is your why? And I know this is something you've explored already in previous modules. But again, your why and your purpose are living and breathing things, and they don't end when you submit or finish your business plan, but really your why should be something that leads you in every step of the way, whether that is in your marketing or in the way that you hire, in the way that you source, in the type of supplies that you use, and the types of crops you want to grow. Like those are things that why is your way to guide you. And that is really true for your storytelling as well. So now an analogy that I like to think of is about cooking with salt. And I love food analogies, and I am assuming that as farmers, you can appreciate a good food analogy too. So the way that I think about your purpose and your why and storytelling is similar to cooking with salt. Your why is your salt. So if you think about like cooking a steak, for example, if you cook a steak and then you just sprinkle salt at the very end, that tastes good. It still tastes good. It tastes salty, but it doesn't really taste like much more than that. Whereas on the other hand, if you are cooking a dish and you take the time to sprinkle that salt on your meat before you put it into the pan and you allow that salt to dissolve in, and then throughout the cooking process, if you're cooking a dish, then you layer that salt in at different points of the cooking process. Then at the end, you don't have a dish that's just salty. You end up with a dish that just tastes so much more than that, something that is so much more rich and much more nuanced and has this depth of flavor that you wouldn't have had if you just sprinkled the salt on at the very end. And so that is really the same way to think about your why. Your why and your purpose isn't just about something that you put into your business plan, and it's not just something that you slap on at the end of like a pamphlet or at the end of your website and you say this is our why. Instead, it's taking your why and allowing that to be your unique lens, your unique perspective in terms of how you do business, but also in terms of how you do your marketing and your storytelling. So allow your why to be like your salt, where you sprinkle it in generously throughout your whole marketing and your storytelling, because that is how people can really resonate with you. Tad talked about hub marketing and who you should reach out to in order to help you spread the word. And that is really, really valuable advice. And the way that I look at marketing online and social media and storytelling is really complementary to that. Because if you can tell your story in a way that is really, from your unique perspective and that solves your customers' problem, then you are able to not just get people, you don't need to reach out to people. They instead will come to you. And that has been my experience with my own e-commerce businesses, where most of our customers actually find us through Instagram or through our blogs on Google, just because we have really, really good content that is really valuable to them and that they can't really find anywhere else. And so when we think about this, like a more tangible way to think about marketing online and the storytelling aspect is to think of the sweet spot. Really, what you're looking for is this intersection of your why, which is the story that you want to tell. What is your reason for creating your business in the first place? What is the change that you want to see? What are the things that you are deeply passionate about? And then how does that intersect with this other side, which is like your customer's problem? So what are the things that they're struggling with? What are the things that they're asking? What is the the question that they need to have answered? And then if you're able to find that in between, that intersection between your why and your purpose and your customer's problem, then that is the sweet spot of marketing. At the end of the day, marketing is about getting the right message to the right person at the right time and doing that same thing over and over and over again all the time. And that's how you build a brand. It's totally different from sales because sales is about getting that revenue. It's about closing that sale in that particular instance. But marketing and branding are long term. So when you solve your customers' problems in a way that aligns with your why, that's how people start to recognize you. That's how you build an authority and that's how you build a voice. And that's what will make people coming back to you specifically instead of another farmer or another brand or just going to like one of those, big grocery store chains. That is what will really make you stand out and make you different. And so how do we actually understand our customers' problems? So I put together this worksheet for you. So that is available for you to fill out. And what this helps you work through is to ask yourself questions to really get into the mind of your customer. So it's one thing to really know what your why is. And again, your why is going to change. Like that why is a living, breathing thing. It's iterative. It's the sort of thing that you can only really feel confident in and like have conviction in over time and over years as you grow your business and get to know better what you want to focus on and what aspects of your business you love. But then understanding your customer's problem is also something that takes so much time to understand. And so this is just a starting point. So first, ask yourself, like, who is my ideal customer? Name one real person. And I know that you've kind of done this exercise, I believe, from previous modules. So if you have that information, like fill this out here, but essentially start with like a real person. And I know you're all, aspiring businesses. So you might not have an actual like customer, but think about a real person in your life that you would love to be your customer. That if you could have like one type of person lining up around the corner to purchase from you, who would that person be and why? And really name that person, get concrete about it. So use a real life example, at least one person. If you have three people, that's amazing, but really start with just like one real person. And I cannot stress that enough. Use a one real person. Then ask yourself, there's this person. So what's keeping them up at 3 a.m.? What is the thing that's weighing on their minds so much that they can't sleep at night because they're so stressed about it? Is it concerns about their health? Is it concerns about the direction the world is going? Is it concerns about sustainability and environmentalism, about the future generation? What are those questions? What are those things that are really keeping them up and really stressing them out? And then what questions are they asking? So get specific again, write it out. What are the questions that they are specifically asking? What are questions that people have asked you and that have really stood out to you? And actually keep a log of these questions. So that's something that I do all the time for all the brands that I work with as clients, but also for my own e-commerce brands. Even now, 5 years in, I have a file of compliments that people have left and said about our business. And I keep track of the language that they use and the words that they're using to describe our work. And then I try to repeat those same words in our storytelling and marketing. And also the same thing with their problems. When people ask us questions and they come to me with a question, I will note those things down, and that will be inspiration for future content or future, even like ideas for future products or services that we could offer, right? Really good businesses, again, are the ones that solve a problem. And your marketing and your storytelling is not about you, it's about your customer's problem and what you're trying to solve. So what are the questions that they're asking? And then get to the point where you know your customer so well that you can summarize the problem in one core sentence. So they might be asking multiple questions about like, where can I buy local? Where can I buy ethically raised meat? Um, what kind of plants should I plant for my own farm, depending on your customer, your clientele? Note down all those questions and then try to identify a common theme amongst them, right? So really, really get to know that your customers so well that you're able to summarize it in a sentence. And that's a really hard thing to do. It's not complicated, but it is hard. And it takes a long time to be able to narrow it down to this question. So don't be afraid to experiment, to be curious, to ask those questions, to get into the community and really talk to people in person. And then to also dig into forums online, Reddit, Quora is not so great, but you could use Quora, Facebook groups, just really note down the things that people are asking and wondering about and try to identify a common thread. And then from there, you can continue on with this worksheet. And what I have here is like, having this sweet spot Venn diagram of like, what's your customer's problem in one sentence? So fill that out. And then what is your purpose and why in one sentence? And really have those two together, and then start to brainstorm those ideas, and based on the questions people are asking and based on the things that make you really passionate and that the change that you really want to see and the impact you want to create in your community and who you want to serve, then to start to think about what are the commonalities there. How can you solve your customer's problem from your unique perspective and your unique lens? So I have a section here, you can brainstorm your content ideas and just like write them all down, document all of them. And a lot of them are going to be probably bad. You probably won't use all of them, but this is just a starting point to get those ideas going. And then you can iterate and test things out and then see what resonates, what doesn't resonate, what are things that you are really comfortable talking about and what are you less comfortable talking about and why. And so this is really just like a starting point for this process. So much of marketing and branding is like a journey of self-discovery. That's the same thing of entrepreneurship itself is this whole journey of like personal transformation and learning to trust yourself and learning to trust, the direction that you want to go in. And so it's an iterative process again. And then, so that's the worksheet and you have access to all of that. And then I'll give you an example actually of a real business. And so here we have Masagana Flower Farm for Lourdes, who I know was one of the previous speakers, and she's also a friend of mine and someone that I work with for her marketing. And so in terms of her why, when we were talking about it, one of the things that she described as being her why for creating Masagana in the first place was because she just believes that flowers are just so magical, that there's something about flowers, especially if they're locally grown and grown with so much love, that they can share this bit of magic and share joy. And regardless of where you are, who you are, or what you've been through, you can look at flowers and just feel this sense of comfort and this sense of joy and magic. And that magic isn't necessarily a practical thing. Like flowers are not necessarily practical things, but they are essential things in terms of just finding joy and magic in our lives. So that's her why, is to really share joy and share magic through her locally grown flowers and through her naturally dyed textiles. And then her customers' problem, when we explored a bunch of the different questions that her customers were asking, which is like, how do I, what kind of flowers should I plant in my garden? What are the growing seasons for these particular types of flowers? How do you actually dye? Like, what is the process of hand dyeing my scarf or my pillowcase? When we actually wrote out a bunch of those questions that her customers were asking, what we realized, a lot of it was going back to that same kind of question, which was, how do I just cultivate and bring more joy and magic into my life? A lot of her customers just love beautiful things. They love art, they love flowers, they love decorating their home. They love this feeling of being connected to their community, and they love storytelling. And they really resonated with her story of joy. And when she would post really colorful photos, they just loved how beautiful everything was. And so that's how we were able to distill that this was one of the main questions at the heart of it. It's not even about flowers. At the end of the day, it was like, how do I just bring more joy and more magic into my life and into my home? And then with Lourdes, her unique lens of how she answers that question or solves that problem is through flowers and through showing people how they can grow their joy. So that's actually her hashtag is grow your joy. Um, and so flowers and naturally dyed textiles is one of the ways that she is able to solve her customers' problems. So that is one example of that. And I'd love to, hear what other brands or examples that you can all come up with during our session. So go through the worksheet, try your best to fill it out. And again, just remember that we're here to play the long game. It's not easy to start a business, as you know, when it comes to marketing and storytelling, and when it comes to finding that like customers one problem or one question. Again, it's not complicated, but it's not easy. It's hard, you know. It's really, really hard and super challenging, but it takes a lot of time and iteration. And just remember that when it comes to marketing and storytelling and building a brand, you're here to play the long game. It's very, very rare these days, almost never, that you'll post something on Instagram and it's going to generate thousands of dollars in sales right away. At that point, now that I've been running my business for over 5 years, there are points where we'll post something on Instagram and we will get sales right away. But that took quite a few years to cultivate that and to build that community. And it is really challenging to do, but it ends up being really worth it in the end, because now people, because we've been around for a few years and we've been really consistent in our storytelling and really being consistent in terms of the value that we add to our community through our content, then people, really know what we stand for. And people come to us because they they really resonate with the kind of stories that we share, and they know what we stand for. And that's really, at the end of the day, what marketing is so much repetition. It's a lot of consistency. It is about just being really resilient and also being really open to change and learning and listening. And, I think that's something that already so many of you probably have those characteristics as farmers in terms of being resilient and being tough. And that's part of marketing and building a business. So yeah, there will be times that you'll post online and it might feel like no one's paying attention, but eventually it will pay off if you are smart about your content and always asking yourself about your customer, putting yourself in your customer's perspective. And when you post something, always ask yourself, like, why should I care? And think about that from the customer's perspective. If someone, was to see you post something or to see a piece of content that you share, a blog post, an article, an email newsletter, a Facebook post, ask yourself, like, why would they care? What is it about, what am I offering in this piece of content that is valuable to them? And that is my own unique perspective. Am I doing something just because I have to? Am I doing something because my competitors are doing it? Or am I doing it because this is actually valuable to my customer? And it is from my unique perspective and my why. Sprinkle that salt and be really consistent and be generous about that. So a lot of time, I promise it'll pay off. And you can also learn to just like love marketing and storytelling when you think about it as part of your impact as your business, and not just a necessary side thing to do to generate revenue for your business. So that's all for me. I'm really excited to have our live session and our live Q&A. And please come ready with some of your responses to the worksheet. And I'm excited to unpack some of them with you and hear about your thoughts and what questions come up. So thank you.